In the Netherlands, there are 9 neonatal intensive care units. The Dutch neonatal nursing capacity is scarce. As a result, patients are often rejected and transferred to other centers or even abroad. This places a heavy burden on the patient, their families, and the involved caregivers. Given the limited distances between the NICU centers in the Netherlands, the idea arose to not move around patients, but instead to share nurses between the different neonatal intensive care units in the Netherlands. My study provides a quantitative basis to support the discussion on whether or not a flex pool of nurses should be implemented in the Dutch neonatal network. My dream for the future is to provide a high quality of care for lower cost and lower amount of resources.
Many cities in low to middle income countries face the growth of marginalized neighborhoods. These neighborhoods, such as slums and informal settlements, they require updated information. In my research, I developed a model that could capture the diversity of such neighborhoods using only open data sources and open softwares. The output of my research helps policymakers target the issues of such neighborhoods and therefore improve their living conditions. When I received the award, like the news of the award, I was really thinking that my case study was São Paulo. I'm from Brazil, and I was thinking that perhaps I could share this with other countries, because the whole idea was to make a model that could be transferable to other cities, to other contexts. And then this could spread out a very important, significant tool to other cities.
Waves cause high forces on the dike cover. This is why the dike covers are often covered with block revetments. These revetments are tested in flume tests. However, these tests can be expensive, time-consuming, and it is difficult to measure the flow conditions. This is why I have developed a new numerical model that can determine the flow conditions on the whole dike cover. With this model, it is now possible to optimize the design of the block revetments, leading to the safest design of flood defense. Winning this award means a lot to me, because I see it as appreciation for all the hard work I did in half a year.
Having experiences with social interactions is ultimately what drives social and emotional development during childhood and adolescence. For young autistic people in a non-autistic environment, it can be really hard and daunting to get these types of opportunities and to develop such skills. In my thesis, I explore how a computer game might help as a support. Unlike other autism series games, this one was specifically aimed towards autistic girls, and also it was really important to us that we would design it together with autistic girls as co-designers. This was really important because we wanted to find out about their needs, about their real experiences, and about the values they have, so the game could take that into account. Ultimately, the game aimed to be a safe space for learning, for gaining self-confidence, and ideally to prevent unhealthy coping behaviors.
For my research, I looked into some genetic brain disorders which we do not quite understand. So these are, for example, genetic types of epilepsy, ADHD, or autism, of which we don't know how exactly these diseases work, which makes it difficult to treat these patients. But because these are genetics disorders, we can take the patient's cells, for example their blood cells, and reprogram them into networks of neurons. So now we have these kinds of mini brains in our lab with the same genetics as the patients, and these show very different activity from healthy networks. But in our lab, it's difficult to find out what disease mechanisms underlie this behavior because we cannot control and measure everything in these networks. So therefore, I developed a computational model of these networks of neurons in which we can control and measure everything and look exactly into what's going on in these networks. And with this computational model, we found some novel disease mechanisms in, for example, some forms of epilepsy, which helps us to further our understanding of these diseases and hopefully in the future treat patients better. Winning the graduation award for me was a great surprise. I really loved doing this research for my master thesis, and I will also further it during my PhD, so it's just a great boost to keep going with this research and to spark my enthusiasm even more.